Douglas Macgregor is a retired colonel. He's author of the book Margin of Victory, 5 Battles That Changed the Face of Modern War, and he joins us tonight. Colonel, thanks very much for coming on. It is in no way to denigrate the service of our troops who are improving the lives of foreigners, a lot of foreigners in a lot of different places. But why do you think it's so repugnant to our leadership class that they would help protect us?
Well, first of all, let me point out, contrary to what Brother Boot is saying, there are no Russian armies massing on the borders of Europe prepared to strike west and conquer Europe. None. There are no Chinese armies massing on the borders of Southeast Asia or on the border with Korea ready to pounce on the Korean Peninsula or invade Vietnam and Thailand. They don't exist. So there is no imminent threat, contrary to popular belief. These troops do not have to be overseas where they are. So why are they there? Very simply because special interests enrich the ruling class. The lobbies that exist, foreign and domestic, have enormous money, and it pays people on the Hill, obviously a great deal of money, to support whatever involves overseas contingencies. So the overseas contingencies, the overseas presence, is a cash machine.
So just to get back to first principles for a second, the purpose of the U.S. military is to defend the United States, correct?
Correct.
So if there is a threat to the territorial sovereignty of the United States, the U.S. military, you would think,
absolutely. Title 10 of the United States Code specifically says just what you've said. And the Army in particular, in addition to conducting decisive operations on land, has the task of conducting the mission for wide area security. So the U.S. Army belongs on the border right now, and it's perfectly obvious to everyone on the border. You can add more patrolmen. You can add more customs officers. It's not just a function of the wall. They cannot possibly cope with hundreds of thousands of people marching over those borders, especially when they're told that if you reach the border, you have to be admitted. We need martial law on the border. I just spoke this afternoon to people on the border with New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas, and they all said the same thing. Please send troops, send the United States Army.
So we're going to put on the screen a list of places that the U.S. military is committed, and I think maybe some of our viewers might not be aware of the scale of the commitment. And again, this is not criticism of those troops who are doing their duty and doing it well. But they were sent by policymakers who see what they're doing in Denmark, Fiji, Finland, France, we're going to keep scrolling here, as a good deed. But why would it be offensive for them to protect this country? I don't understand. Why is one good and the other bad?
Well, the Democrats look south and they see voters moving across the border. The Republicans are afraid of losing votes, and so they lack the courage to stand up and say stop. Those are the two problems. No one on the left is going to advocate for the defense of that border, because they see in the future a foundation, a human foundation, for a permanent dictatorship of the left.
So, I mean, you spent your life in the military. Tell me, if you were to ask your average frontline infantryman in the U.S. Army, would you feel better about protecting your own country's border or protecting our, quote, Kurdish allies, whoever they are, in Syria? What do you think the answer would be?
Well, first of all, let's face it, the average American soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine who arrives in the Middle East and looks around, he says, my God, there is nothing here worth my life.
Yes.
So as a result, I'm not going to take any chances. So if I'm in a fight, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm not going home in a body bag. The average soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine doesn't see anything in Afghanistan or the Middle East, or for the most part in Africa, that justifies the loss of his life. So, to answer your first question, they would all be delighted to defend the United States, to defend our borders, particularly the Mexican border, without question. The generals, of course, are part of the ruling class here in Washington. They're not interested because they look at the same cash machine. How do we justify bloated ground forces, a huge Marine Corps, a large Army, massive investment in surface fleets if we pull back and we admit there really is no justification for it overseas? Can't be done.
Grim but smart. Thank you, Colonel. It's great to see you. It always is.
Great to see you.